appreciate everyone being here. I know most of you are here for other folks or to support CAP, but I am happy some of you came to this reception, at least partly for me. I did have to explain to a few folks that, namely clients, that I didn't think this meant I had to retire. That lifetime achievement seems kind of final, but I think they understand that. I hope, since two sets of clients are here tonight, I'm hoping those at least will not think that I'm done. Nell did ask me to share a little bit about what I think is important and what I focus on. And I'd like to, before getting into that, thank my family for being here. My wife Lou, my sons Jeff and Philip, they're back there. I am the conservative in my family. I absolutely am. Either our first or second date was to a MANA board meeting. MANA is now part of Community Food Advocates, but we spent a romantic evening talking about how to eliminate the purchase requirement and federal food stamp benefits, and have gone from there. We've been married 37 years, working together on a lot of things. So I wanted to share that what I do is only one little part of working for social justice and working to build community and working for the common good. There are a lot of ways to do it. There's community education, there's community organizing, there's the occasional civil disobedience perhaps, press releases, running for office, providing direct services to those in need, suing people, one of my favorites. I said that for the League of Women Voters, which has recently won a pretty big lawsuit against the state of Tennessee so that we can have Affordable Care Act implementation. Then there's legislative and administrative advocacy. That's not the most glamorous perhaps, but there are those of us who love it, and it's what I do. I don't do it because it's the only important thing, it just sort of happened. I sort of think of myself as a legal aid lawyer gone bad. Representing people in detainer warrant cases and public benefits cases, and something opened up about legislative coordination or something, and I went to work for the Tennessee Alliance for Legal Services. That was in 1982. And since then, I've gradually moved in and out of different work, most of it focused on legislative work. And it is, of course, an easy thing to do when you have a legislature like ours, which is so eager to do the right thing for people on the margins of society. But it is something that I enjoy. I have taken the liberty of bringing some materials from two, not my favorite two, I can't say that because it'd be other folks, but two of my favorite clients, the League of Women Voters of Tennessee and the Tennessee Conservation Voters, just to kind of show you how much fun it is to work with them. And I left some of those back there, but there's an amazing list of priorities that summarize so much about what our state needs from the League, and also a scorecard. The unique contribution of Tennessee Conservation Voters is to hold legislators accountable. Why anyone would want to be in the legislature to be held accountable by us, I don't know, but we'll talk about that later.
That feels personal.
Yeah. But I really do love what I do, and the secret to being a good lobbyist is to have good clients, and that's what I have. I'd like to suggest that one reason that I mentioned that about the different kinds of advocacy is that none are necessarily better than the others, but they all have a place. And I really want to suggest, for those of us who maybe focus on other aspects of advocacy, that the kind of relationship building advocacy with decision makers, even those that you might not always like, coupled with some attention to how to communicate and a good command of the facts, that particular skill that is so important in legislative advocacy is really needed. It's always needed. It's particularly needed when social justice is not at the forefront, shall we say, of the agenda of the decision makers. So I offer that as just some suggestions to folks who maybe focus on some other areas, I am not by any means saying that those are not important. We would never have had civil rights movement without civil disobedience and community organizing and litigation, but it's been helpful to keep parts of the gains of that movement, to have thoughtful relationship building lobbyists and lay advocates. So having said all that, I don't want to sugarcoat the legislature. They did some amazing things this year, good and bad, but over the course of the last few years, just very briefly, here's a few things that have happened that you might not have read about, all of them, but here they are. Tennessee has a school breakfast program, which has the highest percentage of school breakfast participation in the country. Now, that wasn't because they set out to do it, but they got persuaded at our state legislature to mandate school breakfast in every school system unless that school board held a public meeting and explicitly voted not to make it available. No other state had thought of that, but we have that here, and because of that, and the school board not wanting to hold it up, it has stayed, and after 25 years, we're at the top of the list in terms of participation. We have something called the school fee waiver, which we don't talk about a lot in public, because if legislators heard about it, they might find a good bill to reverse it. In this state, we have free public education, sort of, except for many, many years, if you wanted to do something that required a lab fee and you couldn't pay for it, you didn't get to take the course. If you wanted to be part of a school trip, even during the work day, school day, and you couldn't pay it, you couldn't go. Working with social workers, we passed a bill that we never thought we could pass that now mandates that anyone eligible for free or reduced price meals must be afforded a way to go to do these programs and projects free. These are not things that we can talk about in many places. That's why I bring them up now, because they could all be repealed. This last year, of course, with the strength of the school reform movement, as you know, they passed all of these bills, except, of course, they didn't. You know, who would have thought that given the political climate, the bill that would have provided for-profit management of public charter schools would have failed. But thanks to the League and a lot of other groups, it failed. It did not pass. Also thanks to our Speaker of the House, who killed it after hearing about it. So those are some education bills. I guess my real love has been social infrastructure, or meeting human needs through government services and government funding. I will simply mention that we have had a great victory that was a little quiet. This year there was a major push to reduce the lifetime benefit level for TANF by 20%. I don't know how much you read about it, but it was going through until the last day of almost of the session. Got to the budget committee of the House, having passed the Senate. It basically was on its way through, and because of some great questions raised by Craig Fitzhugh and Gary Odom, the legislators looked around at this bill that had already passed. There's 8 Republicans, 2 Democrats in the committee. They make a motion to defer it till next year. Passes unanimously because of careful working and some good, solid legislators. I think Neil told me 8 or 10 minutes, but I think maybe we're going to go a little less than that. And I'll simply mention, without going through all these others, that whatever our strategy is, that what's needed so much in this state is a commitment to the common good. I'm not a real philosopher or social justice theorist, but that, I think, is what we're all united by, is some vague and sometimes very specific calling or belief that we're about the common good, and that what this state needs is more emphasis on we and less on I. My final story is to remind you that even though relating to legislators and working with who you have is important, don't underestimate how bad it's getting. We have a campaign right now to eliminate positions of 3 Supreme Court justices, led by the Speaker of the Senate, Lieutenant Governor Ron Ramsey. He has listed 2 reasons for this. One is that they're obviously soft on capital punishment. They have not killed enough people. The case he's worried about is where someone brought up the defense of mental retardation on appeal. Because of prior United States Supreme Court rulings, that was mandated that be referred back down for further hearing. They held in accordance with that constitutional requirement. They found out, yes, there was mental retardation, and the prosecuting attorney did the rest. But that means they have to go out of office because they didn't kill this person. And then, of course, the second thing is they elected a raving liberal Bolshevik attorney general, Bob Cooper. I don't know how many of you know Bob Cooper. But he actually participated in a lawsuit against a car manufacturer who had defrauded thousands of Tennesseans and got benefits for him. That's the other reason to make sure that we get rid of that Supreme Court, because they're the ones who elected that Bolshevik job killer. So I do not want to minimize how hard this work is at the legislature and public policy, but it can be done. Victories are won every day. And thank you so much for recognizing some of the work I've done.